ComplyTrack uses advanced pivot table technology to give you a fast and flexible analytical reporting and charting tool for summarizing large amounts of data and highlighting desired information. ComplyTrack's analytical reporting and charting tool allows you to dynamically change the contents and structure of your report simply by using the mouse to drag the fields that interest you from a categorized list and drop them directly into a report. The pivot table functionality is broken up into 4 sections. Across the top is the command bar, with your major options for saving and subsequently reopening saved analysis, plus other high-level operations. On the left side is the field selection area, containing a list of all the data fields that you have available to analyze and build your reports. This is where you will drag from. These fields are categorized to make them easier to locate and understand. Directly to the right are the pivot table controls, where you will place items that you drag from the field list. This is the drop location, and this is also where you will set up some filters. The entire right section of the screen is the report area. This is where your formatted report will be generated and dynamically updated as you modify the data in the pivot table control section. To begin, the first question that you have to ask yourself is, what am I looking for? What information do I want to see? The power of this pivot table technology is in the aggregation of raw data. So visualize your report from a top-down perspective. For this exercise, let's start with the basics and define a pivot table report that gives a high-level summary of your data. The first report will show the number of activities by type associated with each entity in your organization. With an idea of the desired report, the next step will be to identify and select the fields needed for your report. The field selection area has all of the available fields organized into categories: activity, employee, agency, etc. Clicking on any one of these sections will show the individual fields for that section. Look at these fields and find those that represent the data for both the requested entity and the type of activity. That would be the category. Drag these 2 fields over into the appropriate pivot table control area. If you click the Update button now, you will see that in a few simple steps, all of the related records that you have access to in your database have been read, and the report now has the unique rows for every entity and unique columns for every category. All that's needed now is to add the information inside your table, the stuff that you really want to know. For this example, you want to know the number of activities logged for each entity. In short, you want to look at all activities and count them in the appropriate column and row combination. To add this information in, drag the activity number field into the sum data area. The Greek letter sigma is a standard notation in mathematics for when something needs to be summed. After you have dragged and dropped the activity number field, click on the Update button. The activity category columns will get filled in for every row that has corresponding data. You can dynamically change the structure of your grid simply by dragging and dropping the fields in the pivot table control area. Let's move the entities to the columns and the categories to the rows. Press the Update button, and you will see that now we have the entities going across the top and the categories going across the rows. Congratulations! You just created your first pivot table report and can now see the volume of activities being handled across the organization. However, we are not done. You are about to see how easy it is to refine your report. In the first part of our exercise, you created a pivot table report that summarized the volume of activities being logged across the organization. While that might be interesting, it may not give you the detail that you are looking for, so you can take the report further by drilling down more. If you add a new column with the date of activity field, and then double-click on the date activity field, the pivot field update screen will open. For date fields, you can further refine what part of the date field you want to include in the report. The whole date, just the year portion of the date, the day portion of the date, the month portion of the date, or the quarter in which this date falls. For this example, let's select the year portion of the date. and press Update Field. Then select the Update button. You will now have additional columns that break out the total activities for each row by year. Let us zoom in even closer to the data. The next exercise is for you to enhance your report to show all activities by category and subcategory. To do this, you must pivot your report again by adding the subcategory field into the rows. Now click on the Update button, and you should see a report with a count of activities by the category and the subcategory. Finally, if you select a field by mistake or change your mind, simply remove a field by dragging and dropping the field to an area containing the trash icon until it turns a different color. Press Update to see the change reflected in the report grid.